Hello, everyone, and welcome to your September forecast. This is Tamara Childs. I'm doing this a little bit differently, so you may hear me shifting around with my um, equipment here. But I wanted to find a more efficient way to do this podcast, so I'm trying this on conference software. How are you? Happy September. So this month starts with a new moon right at the beginning. And we have what's called a stellium, a collection of planets that are in Virgo, which is a very practical, perfectionistic sign. This is get it done energy. And we're having a moment here at the beginning where we may receive some insights, and some of them rather sudden, into how to innovate or create something better than you previously imagined in your life. So what are you working on that could use some innovation? And if you're like me, you've been feeling this, I got to get this done energy. It's a very hands-on, earthy, practical, what do I need to do today? What are my lists kind of energy? Because I think of Virgo as this visionary architect, somebody who's drawing up the blueprints and then intends to, first you write the recipe and then you put all the ingredients in the bowl and you actually bake whatever you're baking. So it's a really practical type of energy, and we are being pushed right now in some positive ways to let these new ideas, maybe you'll have a conversation with somebody this month that will create something innovative going on in your thinking. This is a very mental sign, so there's a lot of mental energy here as well as hands-on energy. So you may, cross paths with somebody this month where they say something and it just sets off this light bulb. Oh my God, this is how I could do that thing that I've been wanting to get back to and get back into this project that I've been working on. So that's just an example of how this energy may be coming through for us this month. Now, on the 18th, Saturn, which is sort of the taskmaster, it's a heavy hitting planet. It's the one that causes us to be aware of the limitations of physical reality. It's the planet or the influence that teaches us through a little bit of restriction. It governs time and aging, really. So everything gets aged, and some things are better aged than they are new, like wine, for example, needs to age. I think people get better with age. Saturn certainly agrees with that. So on the 18th, Saturn, which has been retrograde, and that means it's been internalized, it's been almost like sitting like a brick inside of our psyches, um, having us reflect on our timelines, our get it done energy, our restrictions, our aging, as far as our projects, or it could be your physical self as well, depends on where you have Capricorn, because Saturn's in Capricorn. So it comes direct on the 18th, and this will enable a more practical application of our plans. It's like getting back into gear and shifting forward and letting the car move forward. So it's very physical. And I want to say, it's important for me to say this because when I sat down to do this, I actually thought, gosh, I am not even sure what I'm going to talk about this month. But then as I sat down to think through the month and the energies, we're all subconsciously aware of this impending Saturn-Pluto conjunction that I've been talking about, and I speak about it frequently. You've been hearing about it everywhere. It's coming in 4 months. Now, this is collective consciousness that's trying not to repeat history. The last time these two planets met was 500 years ago, the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade. So this was colonialism. Colonialism became the new way of the Western world, and economics was based on slave labor. This is how we were building civilizations and through this type of trade. Now, this is why there's so much awareness in the world in current events and issues that have to do with domination, control, unfair practices, and the worst of this is, of course, modern slavery systems that include sex trafficking, for example. And all of this is on the collective brain. We can't avoid this any longer. It's right in our consciousness. So remember that this is like we have our individual lives, and these are the scenes that are on stage between two people having a conversation, or this is going on or that. But this Pluto-Saturn conjunction is the backdrop. It's like the set design. It's what it's the scape behind us. It's what we're looking at. And so no wonder this is a time when all these government structures and ruling systems are in this review. We can't ignore this as context because just as our forefathers, we live in a time of incredible historical impact. So this backdrop creates like a heavy feeling in our psyches, kind of like House of Cards. What do we hold on to for our strength? Um, And remember that this is all about power, and it's all about disciplining how you spend your energy. Your energy is your currency. So how can you maintain sovereignty over your life, your energy, your attitudes as we move through these really complex moments? So just because it's September and we're not quite at the Pluto-Saturn conjunction doesn't mean we're not noticing all of the power systems in the world and how destructive they've become, and how the things that we used to rely on in all the institutional structures, schooling, government, police, it's like crumbling. We're not sure. We're not sure what's true anymore. We're not sure what's the real news. All of this is part of this destruction. Pluto is the god of death, hitting structure, which is Saturn. That's what's coming. So we are in a position, a really unique historical position, to begin to look at how we use power on a daily basis, what we feel disempowered by, who we feel disempowered by, what structures we're using to feel caged or imprisoned. There's lots of prison you know, there's a lot of prison energy in the system right now. That's what we're feeling. And so I thought it might be helpful for me to tell you, just as I'm sitting down to do this Energies podcast, I'm thinking, God, this is too complex. How do I talk about all of the things that are happening and then put it into a pretty little nutshell that is September? And so you may be going through this as well. How do I maintain my life and work toward my dreams and find out what's important to me and still be compassionate in the world, to look at some of the issues that are coming up for all of us, like human rights issues, planetary issues, environmental issues, political issues, all of that. And I know that sometimes those of us who walk on the personal development spiritual path have a little trouble with this. It's sort of a seesaw for us. Do we put attention on these things that are crumbling? Or does that make us feel disempowered? I mean, that's part of the question we're answering right now. Ultimately, we're going to be creating new structures in the future for our society that work for everybody, because that's the age of Aquarius, but we're not quite in there yet. So we're in a time of dissolving the old, and it can cause some anxiety, it can cause some fear coming up. So I talk about this not because I want you to feel disempowered or, I mean, there's no way to get this right, because sometimes when I did radio, people would say, well, why are you always talking about political and controversial issues? Or why aren't you talking more about politics? And there's just no way to get it right. There's no way to create safety in a world that is changing as much as it is. So I say this so you can be aware of any undertone in your life of anxiety, fears that are coming up, because fears are stirred in the collective right now. I mean, everybody on some level is recognizing that something's not working in the outer structures. So those who have faith and they feel empowered on the inside and they are working in their communities to create more love and stability, those people are going to feel less threatened than the people who are relying on governmental structures or the news to tell them how to live their lives. So we enter September with a lot of constructive energy, a lot of earth energy, a lot of being able to start to put plans into action. And this is a good thing. This is a good thing for all of us because it's not helpful for us to sit back and just feel helpless as the world seems to be, going up in flames, so to speak, or literally. Um, and there's always a reason. This is a really exciting time in history, and there's a reason that each of you is here. So it's about tapping into, why are you here? What are you building? What do you want to create? What are your values? Within the constraints of the limitations of the world that we live in, and also beyond them, what do you want to create? So those are some questions coming up for us in September. Another thing that I just want to mention is that there are a couple of planets that are invisible. This means that as we stand on Earth, if we were to look up at the sky, we would not be able to see that planet. That's all that means, because the way that we do astrology here, it's from the Earth, looking at the sky, and we feel influenced or, motivated or not motivated based on what's going on there. That's the idea of the skies. So um, both Venus has been moving behind the sun, and this is it's called it's just called the disappearance of Venus, and she will arrive as the evening star a little bit later this fall. Venus rules our ability to love, to feel loved, to feel lovable, to feel beautiful, to feel the beauty in the world, and also all the things that cause us to feel a sense of luxury. Venus is that cuddly, yummy. It's chocolate, and it's stuff that makes us feel this energy of receptivity to love. Sometimes when she's invisible, which she does, periodically, it can make us feel a little bit like those things are a little harder to come by. This can include money. Um, And if if your chart is ruled by Venus, or you're a Libra or a Taurus, this can also have an effect on you. It's a time when she's getting purified by the sun, and then she arrives. It's like a rebirth that she has when she arrives in as the evening star, and it's a more subtle energy than the morning star. So that's one of the energies that we're also dealing with through September. Also, Mercury's invisible, and this Mercury rules gears, mechanical things. So it's not retrograde, but it's invisible. It can just feel like the mechanics of life are a little bit less easy to access, or if your chart has a lot of strong Mercury in it, you can also feel like, wow, this is going a little more slowly than I expected, or I've got to pull up more information here. Um, or, it can even, Mercury rules all things mechanical, so it can have actual mechanical things going on. So I just wanted to mention those things as well. So the cards that I got the Three of Wands. And in this deck, it's the Sun in Aries. The Three of Wands is the card of us having created architecturally in our minds, or through actual labor, but it implies the thinking that's gone into our dreams. And we're waiting for that to come in physicality. And there's an implication that something is going to come in for us, something that we've been designing, something that we've been working on is going to be coming into our reality, just like a ship coming on the ocean. And we're waiting. We're just sitting, we're watching. And the implication here is, stay focused on the goals that you have. Stay focused on, there's an energy exercise I like to give clients, which is that you stand in this river of energy that's moving toward you. And you just put your ankles in the water, in the energy, and you stand downstream from this thing that you wish to come toward you and let it just come. Let it come. So let what you want come to you. You've already done a lot of work. This is a card of manifestation, actually, of the things that you've dreamed of and the things that you've been the architect of. And it's interesting, there's a lot of this energy right now that has to do with dreams, um, aspirations, what we are trying to create, what our vision is. And so that is part of the environment of September as well, is to keep your focus on your vision. I also got the King of Swords and the King of Cups. These are two mastery cards that are very different. They're very There's a masculinity to them, although the King of Cups is the master of emotions. That's a softer energy, but not really, because it's a king. And it's so for taking them separately, the King of Swords has to do with using your mind with a sense of mastery. Now, one of the ways that I might ask you to try this month is think of your energy and your attention as your currency. So what would that look like? That would be that maybe you start your day with thoughts of gratitude instead of thoughts of worry. So if you have a thought of worry, you really need to ask, who does that belong to? And take dominion over yourself. This is a card of mastery over the mind. Where does your mind go on a habitual basis? What are you doing with your mind? That's a very important, because the implication with getting this card is that we can be masters of mind. So this month, you may have a lot of interesting up and down stuff going on in the news or even in daily living. And the idea is to not only keep your vision in mind, but maintain a sense of mind mastery. And whatever you need to do when you get home, or if you're sitting in your car after a meeting and you just feel like, I've got to clean this mind up here. You just reach up. You can even give your scalp a massage. There are lots of ways to clear those energy pathways up there and clear out energy. You can also carry oh dear, my mind is going here. A smoky quartz and oh, I'll put it in the notes. Any kind of crystal that will detach the cords so that you're not having anybody connect in there, because ideally you actually don't want anything plugged into the top of your head, because that's your knowing center. And this king really knows who he is. He knows what he wants, and he's like an icicle. He's like he's got an icicle as a sword that he can just clear the cobwebs out. Fluorite was the stone I was thinking of. So a fluorite is very good for debugging your crown or your head, your forehead, or if you get headaches from being around other people where they're talking about things that are giving you a headache, you might need to use a fluorite and put it on your head or on your temples. So pay attention to how you're taking in information, and just keep remembering, I'm the master of my mind. Now, the King of Cups is saying, I'm the master of my emotions. Now, I love that we get both of these cards for September, because the mind and the emotions work together all the time. We'll have a thought. I'm just going to pull one out here. Here's a disempowered thought is, I have to struggle so hard. And the emotions that go with that thought, how do they make you feel? They're going to make you feel heavy. They're going to make you feel like not getting out of bed. They're going to make you feel like you're having an emotional memory of all the times that when things were hard. Yes, life is sometimes hard, but you don't have to stay in that thought form, because mind and emotions creates thought forms. And as you know, thought forms create mobs. You can have a flash mob that is positive, you can have a negative mob. And that's how the collective consciousness works, is through thought forms. We are motivated by thought forms, and there's a lot of thought and emotional control that's being activated over us. So this is why I have my course, Understanding Empaths, is so that you can learn how to master and have sovereignty over your body and your emotional body. and your energy body. Because there is a lot. All you have to do is turn on television, and I do not own television um, for a reason. So just keep in mind that keeping people off center, upset, very upset. A lot of upset people create what? More upset and a sense of helplessness. So how can you take your power back this month? When you hear something that makes you feel a certain way, just remember, I'm the master of my mind. I'm the master of my emotions. And so what would that mean for you? You might literally substitute a thought of worry or fear, like, oh my God, something's going to happen here. Turn it into a different thought. Can you imagine if billions of people were able to turn a negative worry thought, like I'm helpless to do anything in this world, into something, I'm the master of my mind, and creating a sense of peace and calm? We know that prayer works on a mass level, and that's the way that I wish you would be activated with me, is into this space of empowerment, because your mind and emotions are the hidden genius of you as a human being. It's just an incredible power that we possess, and manipulation from other areas in life know that, and that's where you know we get we get our mind and emotions become sabotaged through the negativity in the world. And I don't want that to happen with you this month. And I want to empower you. I'm also getting the Seven of Cups. This is a dreamy card. It's an indecisive card. It's a card of feeling like our feet are not on the ground. And I thought this was really interesting because as I drew these first four cards, I asked, is there another card? And I went for it. And this is what I got. Now, the Seven of Cups in this deck it's Venus and Scorpio. And Venus and Scorpio is, Venus doesn't like to be in Scorpio because Venus it wants to open up to love. It wants to love and be loved. And what does that require? An open heart and trust. And the sign of Scorpio has issues with that, issues with trust, and therefore wants to pull back or, close up or deny that opening or that receptivity. And, this is a little mystifying getting this card with the others, but what I can say is that there may be something that happens this month that brings up a caution in you, in your heart, feeling like something's controlling my ability to be receptive or open. Now, you're never actually going to be hurt when your heart is open, because when your heart is open, you are giving and receiving love. And that's the essence of who you are. How could that be hurt? So we make the mistake sometimes of pulling back and getting scared and becoming cautious. And some of us, when we get cautious, we become indecisive. We feel ungrounded. We check out. We dissociate from what's going on. So I want to just remind you that, this is a really constructive month for moving things into form that have been important to you, for actually moving on the decisions you've been thinking about for the last 6 months. And don't let this little fear picture that may come up in your heart, like maybe you're planning on opening something or launching something, and then you hang out with somebody or a few people and you mention it, and somebody says a cautionary something, and it causes you to go into indecision or vagueness, or feeling like, oh, I don't know what that is. I don't know if I'm really going to do it. Or, it's a closing up of your heart. And I want you to just stay open with your heart this month if you can. Um, there's just so much positive energy that we can use. We are being challenged. Don't get me wrong. This Pluto-Saturn thing is a real thing, and we're all feeling it in all areas and wondering, how can we live our lives well and do the right thing? how can we do the right thing for us, for the world, for other people? And again, those are very, I'm Aquarian, so I always go into the Aquarian subset of ideas on that and the humanitarianism. But even if you took this at a really self-centered level, um, you'll want to just guard yourself from unwanted influences this month that cause you to go into indecision and close your heart up. Remember, you can say, I'm the master of my mind and my emotions. How do I want to feel today? My energy is my currency. Where am I going to put that currency today? So that is it. I'm trying to keep this a little shorter, and I hope this recording worked because this is my first time doing it. Um, Thank you so much for listening. I always love it when you share and comment on this. I actually am considering doing something different other than the podcast. I would love to hear from you what you would most like from me each month as an energy forecast of some kind. So your comments really do matter to me, and they affect how I move forward. So I would love that feedback from you. So please don't hesitate. Don't be shy. And I hope you have a wonderful month, everybody. I forgot to tell you that this photo I took for the September podcast was this sunset sky. And I loved it because it's like this incredible brilliance before the sun is completely gone. And then everything turns kind of gray and blue. And it reminds me, we are in the fall time. We're moving toward fall now. And fall is an amazing time of pulling inward. It's a time when we can actually pull our focus in enough that we can be very effective. So again, I wish you a wonderful September. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you next month.